Hello, so today I'm going to be going over what's an apostle, what's a preacher, what's a prophet, and what's an evangelist. I wanted to go over this because when I first came to Christ, I didn't know what a prophet was, and before I came to Christ, I went to a funeral service, and the preacher was preaching, and I thought he had cameras in my house. It was a very crazy time in my life, so I'm going to be going over what all these things are. So starting off with apostles, so something God is guiding me to do was look up the word in Greek, because the New Testament was written in Greek and I believe the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, but to look up the word in like the original language. And apostle is apostolos, and Greek, I'm going to put it on the screen because I might be mispronouncing it, but the message I feel God directed me to, one that God guided me to use, was one sent out with the message. And then we know that then what I wrote down was they were sent out with the message of the gospel to wherever they got sent. So they got sent out with much of the gospel. And so they are children of God sent out with the message. They teach the foundational teachings of the Christianity, of being a follower of Christ. So like the book of Ephesians, Romans, and there are apostles today. My spiritual mother, Apostle Catherine Creek, I'll leave her information in the caption. But there are apostles today, and they teach new things. How the foundational teachings, but it should never contradict the Bible. So they teach new, but it's still Jesus. Like it never should contradict. It's always they teach new, but it never contradicts the Bible. So if you're watching like apostles, they teach new, but it should never contradict the Bible. So next, going into what is a prophet. So I have some Bible verses, and it reads, "For no prophecy was ever produced by the will of man, but men spoke from God as they were carried along in the Spirit." This is 2 Peter 1:21. And I'm also going to read from the book of Hebrews, and it reads, "Long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom also he created the world." So I'm going to read that one more time. "Long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets." So a prophet is someone that God speaks through. And it goes on to read, "But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom also he created the world." And that is Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 through 2. And then I have one more scripture, and it reads, "And I shall raise up from them a prophet like you from among their brothers. And I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him." Now it's Deuteronomy 18:18. So a prophet is someone so a prophet is a child of God, a child of God that God speaks through. So they speak the words commanded by God, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful, 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 beautiful thing. So next, going into preachers. So what is a preacher? So what I wrote down was proclaim the Bible, Jesus Christ. So I'm gonna kind of explain explain this in the best way that I with the best words, and take this to Jesus. So a preacher is God gives them, so they teach the Bible, right? They teach Jesus Christ. They proclaim the Bible. So what I wrote down was so they teach sermon. So God will give a preacher a teaching that he wants his people to know, and using biblical foundation, they will explain it in the sermon. So for example, one of my pastors that I watch is Pastor Jerry Flowers, and he's doing a series called Symptoms, and I believe he's still in it, and it's about getting to the root. But it's a series that God gave him because he wants his people to get to the root, right? And using biblical foundation, he's using biblical foundation, he's explaining that. So going into what's an evangelist. So evangelist, I looked at the definition, and it reads, a person who speaks to convert others to the Christianity faith, especially by public preaching. So evangelists are people who go out in the world with the Christianity, teach the scripture, convert people to Christianity, reading the scriptures, guiding them to Jesus, winning souls for the kingdom. So that's what's an apostle, what's a preacher, what's a prophet, what's an evangelist. Thank you guys.